All righty. Good evening, everybody. It's going to be a smaller group today, but that's okay. This session will be recorded and put online. The slides will also be available online after the fact, after this presentation. So yeah, welcome to the Urban Agriculture Incentive Zone Program informational session. My name is Amy Yang. I am an associate planner with the City of Sacramento, and I'm really looking forward to sharing this program with you today. So first, we'll cover what urban ag is, especially in the context of the city code. Then we'll talk about what an urban ag incentive zone agreement is, talk about what to do if you don't own land, you can still participate. We'll talk about eligibility criteria. What do you need to look for in your parcel to make sure you are eligible for this program? We'll also talk about the application process. I'll walk you through the beginning to the end, each step of the way. We'll talk about how to prepare an application. What are the components of an application? Then we'll go over the agreement requirements, basically what you are agreeing to when you sign the contract. Last, we'll talk about some strategies for success, some tips to think about as you contemplate applying for this program. And there will be some time at the end for Q&A. All right, so urban ag is the production of food in a form and scale that is appropriate for the urban context. So we're not talking about the large commercial operations that you might see in some places. This is more on a small parcel basis, kind of folded in the urban form. We have a couple of different types of urban ag uses that we recognize. First are community gardens. Community garden is essentially a piece of property that's been divided into multiple plots and is available to a variety of people to come and grow produce. The main difference between a public and a private community garden is who operates and maintains it. So a public community garden is operated and maintained by the city, whereas a private community garden is operated and maintained by a group of people other than the city. Other types of urban ag include a market garden. So this is basically a site that's used to cultivate produce for to sell or donate, and is located in a zone other than agriculture or agriculture open space. Another type is a private garden. This is probably something most of you are most familiar with. It's essentially a food producing garden that is accessory to the primary use of a site. The most common example you might see is a private garden in someone's backyard. So urban beekeeping and aquaculture also count as urban ag. And then some urban ag related uses that might be of interest include an urban agriculture stand. This is a temporary produce stand that is accessory to an urban agriculture use. So what this might look like is like maybe a stand that you set up on your community garden on a Saturday morning. You put it up Saturday morning, and then you take it down once your business hours are over. Another ag-related use is a community market. This is a temporary outdoor market that's about 500 square feet or less. So this table shows what is allowed by right, what urban ag uses are allowed by right, depending on the zone you are in. So for example, if you are in a residential zone, you are allowed to have a market garden or a community garden up to 1 acre by right. So no approvals needed. If you wanted to exceed 1 acre, you would need a conditional use permit. In a commercial zone, you can have the same thing, but up to 3 acres. Anything over 3 acres, you will need to get a conditional use permit. For industrial and manufacturing zones, there is no limit. Sky's the limit. So all the ag definitions and development standards that I breezed through in the last couple slides are available on the urban agriculture regulations page. The link is listed on this slide. There is also a QR code if that's easier. But I'll also remind folks that these slides will be available online after this presentation. So this link will always be there for you to find. If you have any questions about your property's zoning and allowed uses, feel free to email planning@cityofsacramento.org. So we talked about what urban ag is, but what is the Urban Ag Incentive Zone Agreement? So this agreement is a voluntary contractual agreement between the city and a landowner. It commits eligible parcels to urban ag use for 5 years, and in return, the property taxes on that parcel are reduced for the duration of the contract. So in this case, 5 years. Property owners who do sign an agreement this round, so this 2023 round, will see a reduction in their property tax bill beginning late 2024. A little bit more about how the property tax reduction works. So it essentially replaces the assessed value of your property with the average value of irrigated cropland in California. So the average value of irrigated cropland in California is assessed every year and published by the California Board of Equalization. In 2023, the per acre value of irrigated cropland was $18,100. So how this tax reduction works is instead of, say, for example, your vacant property is valued at $50,000. Without this program, your property tax would be assessed using that $50,000 full value of the property. With this program, your property taxes would be evaluated using the $18,100 value. So the value used to evaluate your property taxes is lower, and therefore your property tax is lower. One side note I should mention is that folks who have bought their property more recently will likely see a larger reduction than those who have owned their property for, say, several decades. So, but if you're curious about the value of your property and what savings you might see if you were to enter into this program, you are very welcome to contact the Sacramento County Assessor's Office. Unfortunately, the city does not do those calculations. We don't have the information or the data, and that's not our purview. However, that is the job of the County Assessor's Office, and they have a team dedicated to this program. Feel free to email them at asr-agriculturalteam@saccounty.net. So can you still participate in this program if you don't own property? And the answer is yes, you can still apply as an applicant. And what that means is that this is a good opportunity to bring landowners and urban farmers together, for them to work together. So perhaps you're a landowner, but you don't necessarily have any expertise in urban gardening or urban ag. You can reach out to, say, a nonprofit that does urban farming. They could be the applicant. The same is true in reverse. If you are an urban farmer who's really skilled at this sort of thing and would love to work a piece of property, you can reach out to a landowner, see if they are interested, and you can apply on their behalf. So the property owner still needs to be involved somewhat. They need to sign 2 things at the very least. The first is a letter of agency. So that letter of agency essentially says, I, the property owner, give the applicant permission to apply on my behalf. So that's a very important piece of part of the application. The second thing the owner needs to sign is the actual contract agreement, and this also requires notarization. And I'll just, refer back to an earlier point. It's important that the property owner signs the contract because this is, at the end of the day, a contract between the city and the landowner. So how do you know if you have an eligible property? So there are a couple of things to look at. The first is the size. Size of the parcel needs to be between 0.1 acres and 3 acres and needs to be vacant and unimproved. So that means no development on site. Accessory uses, however, related to urban ag are allowed. So for example, if you have a tool shed on site, that's allowed. Or if you have a temporary ag stand, that is also allowed. The entire property needs to be used for urban ag. No land approval is needed. So to explain this one, I think it's easier to use an example. So say your property is zoned residential. So if you recall from an earlier slide, zoned residential parcels are allowed up to 1 acre of urban ag uses by right. So you don't have to seek any conditional use permit for that. However, say your parcel was 1.5 acres, but you still wanted to participate, or you still wanted to do some urban ag on your property, then you would have to apply for a conditional use permit. So what this bullet point means is you have to have an approved conditional use permit before we can approve your application. So if that's something that you need to seek, I recommend that you do that as soon as possible. Last but not least, it is required to have a metered water service connection or approved well on site. So now I'll walk through the application process from beginning to end. So first, you're going to look for the right parcel, make sure it meets all the eligibility criteria. And if you are not the property owner, reach an agreement with the property owner. Then you will complete the application. This is available for download at the cityofsacramento.org/UAIZ. Once that application is completed, you can email it to planning@cityofsacramento.org. At this point, staff will conduct a preliminary determination of eligibility, and then we'll let you know what we find. If everything is looking good, we will go ahead and create a file number for you for your application. This essentially links your application with your property record on file. Next, you will do a more thorough review of the application, which involves a site visit, essentially confirming that it meets eligibility criteria, but in person. All right, next. So when everything is looking great and your application has been approved, staff will go ahead and prepare a draft agreement and send it to the property owner. The property owner then will need to sign and notarize the contract, then schedule an appointment with us to deliver the contract. At this point, staff will route the agreement for signatures internally, and when all of that is taken care of, we will send it to the Sacramento County Recorder, all before December 31st, so it can get recorded before the end of the year. The original recorded agreement will be returned to the clerk's office, and the owner and the applicant will receive a copy of the recorded agreement. So if you've already looked at the application packet, I should say, you'll see that there's a lot of stuff in there. However, you only need to submit these 5 things. So you will need to submit a signed letter of agency. You will also need to prepare a simple urban agriculture plan. And I know that sounds like super formal and intimidating, but don't be afraid, it's not. It's really just a simple worksheet for you to fill out. You can answer it at a high level. It just helps us get a sense of what you have planned for your property. Next, we have 2 acknowledgement forms for you to review and sign. The first is a watering schedule and conservation regulations sheet, and the second is a water quality best management practices sheet. So all you have to do there is review the regulations and best management practices and sign to acknowledge that you have reviewed it and understand them. Fourth, you'll need to take pictures of your site. Give us a virtual tour, so to speak, of your site through your pictures. And you will also want to attach that to the application. And finally, you want to attach a legal description of the site. And if you've seen the application packet, you will note that there is also an agreement packet, agreement template included in the packet. You don't have to fill this out. This is really just for your reference, really for the property owner's reference, because this is what they will be signing and agreeing to if the application goes through. So it's just for reference. If everything is approved, staff will prepare the agreement and send it to you. Okay, so this is a screenshot of the letter of agency. Very simple, just have to fill in your name, your property, and the person that will be applying on your behalf. This is the urban agriculture plan. So like I said, very simple, very high level. You can answer in just a few short sentences. We just need an idea of what you want to do. These are portions of the acknowledgement sheets that you will be asked to review and sign. And this is an example of a legal property description. So it's going to look a little weird, sound a little funny, but it's what we need. And this can be found on your most recent recorded deed for your property. If you don't have this or you can't find it, you can find it on the Sacramento County Parcel Viewer, which is an online platform. You can also request it directly from the county clerk's office. All right, so when you sign this agreement, what exactly are you agreeing to? I've included some high-level bullets here. One high-level point is you are agreeing to start urban ag activity within 30 days of signing. You are agreeing to restrict land use to urban ag uses only. You are agreeing to dedicate the entire property to urban ag for 5 years. And finally, the city reserves the right to conduct site visits throughout the agreement duration. A couple strategies for success as you guys consider this application. First and foremost, definitely recommend that you prepare ahead of time. So, for example, you will want to check your water connection and meter right away and determine if you need to get a permit. And if you do that as quickly as possible. Also, as quickly as possible, start your urban activity. So start it early if you can. As you will recall, you have 30 days after signing to start urban ag activity, which, really may not be that realistic. So better to start early so that you can prove that within 30 days of signing. Third is keep your plans simple and sustainable. You have to do this for 5 years. So make sure that's something that you can do over those 5 years. And finally, we are asking for you to complete and submit an application by November 1st of this year. So once again, a reminder to submit your application by November 1st, 4 p.m. You can email it to planning@cityofsacramento.org. And that concludes the presentation portion of this informational session. That is my contact information, asyang@cityofsacramento.org. Feel free to email me with any questions about the program. If you have questions about your property zoning, you are encouraged to reach out to planning@cityofsacramento.org. And again, if you have a question about property value or the savings that you might see if you were to sign this contract, you're encouraged to reach out to the county assessor's office. Their email address is asr-agriculturalteam@saccounty.gov. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And leave it open for any questions that you guys might have. Feel free to, we're a small group, so feel free to unmute if you have a question. I'll give you guys a few minutes to collect your thoughts.
Hi, Amy. This is Ben Wickstrom. I serve at a church in South Sacramento, and I'm wondering if this might be applicable for a church that already has an agricultural spot. I mean, it's not separate from the actual property, but it's a
Mm.
portion of it that already dedicated to a garden.
Yeah, unfortunately that wouldn't, yeah, that kind of stinks because one of the downsides of this program is that it excludes situations like that. So unfortunately that property wouldn't be eligible.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. That's what I was figuring, but wanted to just make sure.
Yeah,
So,
thank you for asking.
thank you.
Hi, Amy. I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
Um, I'm not a property owner or anything like that, but I do know some like local farmers, and I myself would also like to participate, like learning how to farm. Um, if we don't know anybody who has a property with land that we could apply for, um, how does that work if we know local farmers? Like, how do we get in touch with people who have land?
Yeah, that's a tricky question. Um, I don't have a good answer for you. I think long term for this program, I would personally like to find a way to connect, interested people with property owners, but right now we don't have a system set up for that. Was talking to some of my other team members recently about this and um okay, awesome, Keith. It's good to know that this is a question relevant to more people. Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have a method of connecting folks right now. There are some other folks interested in like potentially vacant property and, like how does that work when the city has already been talking with them for a long time and nothing has come of it? And how are we supposed to, go ahead and make that connection and essentially like have you jump the line in some sense. But that is something that we are thinking about. It is on the top of our mind. I don't think we will have a solution for this round, unfortunately, but hopefully for next year, we'll have something in place by the time the application window opens again.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, Sebastian, I'm not able to hear you, but I do see that you are unmuted. No, I can't hear you again. If you want, you are welcome to type it in the chat, I think. Oh, it looks like. Right. So Sebastian says, I'm interested in talking to owners of 2 empty lots near my business. The 5-year minimum seems like a deal breaker since they do plan on developing the lots. Are there other directions we can approach? That is a good question. Unfortunately, in terms of this program specifically, there is not much else I can do in terms of reducing that contract period. This is based on state legislation. So unfortunately, we can't modify that contract period. But thank you for your question. Right, any other questions? Oh, okay. Sounds like Sebastian's working on another one. Cool. Hi, Lisa. Welcome to the chat. We just finished a presentation, but it will be available online within the week, so you'll be able to see this full recording and the slides. So yeah, don't feel like you missed anything.
I had an emergency, so I apologize.
Oh no, I hope everything went okay.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, so Sebastian's second question is, can we still plan to farm the property without the program? Yes, yes, you can. Yeah, absolutely. We've got so that urban ag regulations page that I showed earlier. Let me see if I can drop the link directly into this chat. And that's a good primer for what you can do on your property in terms of urban ag. Oh, what did I just drop in? Yeah, so that will take you to our regulations webpage, just like a broad overview. You can obviously go directly to our city code and read it there as well, but this is a nice summary and kind of like coalesces everything together in one place. But yeah, you're absolutely welcome to do urban ag on your property. In fact, it would be amazing. It's too bad. Yeah, I'm sorry that this program wouldn't apply, but you're still very welcome to do that.
Question.
Yeah.
It's so I'm trying to do a project in, well, I know city funding is kind of different from county funding. So is the county excluded from that? Because you know some of Meadowview is county.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, it's only for city property. And
Can we partner up with somebody in the district to do a project with the county?
so is the property in the county?
Yes. So the project I want to take on is the garden area at Ring.
Sure.
And so I did talk to somebody, and I'm just curious for myself. That's why I wanted to join the conversation to see. So Blessed Child Association, we want to take on that project to grow fruits and vegetables in that garden area.
Yeah.
Well, we want to adopt it, but I wanted to know because we do rep for District 8. We're trying to bring about other, areas, but that would be a project that we were thinking about taking on since it's available.
Ah, gotcha. Yeah, unfortunately, your property would have to be within city limits for this program to apply. And I just want to add a point of clarification that this isn't necessarily a funding source. This program is not providing funding, but you would have tax reductions later on. So I think anecdotally, like this program is probably not a good way to start up a project, but it is really a really good way to get back some, like recuperate some costs once the project is already up and running. I think it's a good program for that, but not necessarily to like kickstart anything because it doesn't provide that sort of funding. Hi, Jeff. Welcome to the conversation. Fortunately, hi.
Hi, I'm typing in the chat. I'm sorry that I'm late.
Oh yeah, no worries.
And I'm wondering if there'll be a recording available, so I'll be able to watch it.
Yeah, absolutely. The recording will be available on our project page. I can type that in the chat as well.
Could you do that, please?
Yeah, absolutely. It'll
And
be
I'm
up.
gonna get off right now because
Oh,
I'm in the middle of stuff. And
gotcha.
I'm sorry I won't be able to ask any questions, but I would appreciate watching the recording.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Okay.
yeah, you can access this recording on that webpage by the end of next week.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for stopping by.
Okay. No.
That's a good question. Sebastian, does the city have any programs to provide kickstart funding for urban farms? Unfortunately, we don't have anything specific to urban farms, although if you were able to frame it as like a new local business, I think there are some funding opportunities that might come up around. I don't know if there are any right now at this moment, but I feel like I've seen a few crop up over the course of the year. So you might want to keep an eye out for that if that's what you're interested in. I think it would be a matter of framing it as like a new upcoming business sort of thing. Good questions. Well, there's no pressure to stay. I'll be on for a few minutes. You're welcome to hang out with me. But you're also welcome to, carry on with the rest of your night. Appreciate everybody stopping by.